Good morning, sir. I'm Satvik Chandra. My topic is on the key distribution and the problems of semantic cryptographic algorithm. I exact and so what is key distribution? As we all know that we have two keys, that is a secret key and the public and a private key as a pair. And the secret key is what we use for semantic encryption, and the public and the private key following as pair to keep up the asymmetric one. Key used in encryption and the decryption are both are same in the symmetric key. So the symmetric key is what we transfer to the receiver from the sender side. As we know that a symmetric scheme requires both the parties to share the common and the same secret key. Issue is how securely we distribute this key. Like how well can we share this key without any third party or third person accessing it. So some of the mechanism is required for a secure transmission of this key, and we call it as a key distribution. And often a secure system fails because due to the breakdown in the key distribution. I mean, like we know that the distribution of symmetric key, we have seen an algorithm called a Diffie-Hellman algorithm. So we will see the different types of key distribution algorithm for the asymmetric key distribution. So what are the key managements? Authentication of the user of the key, the generation of the key, distribution of the key, and the storage of the key. As we all know that one of the most important security system is like on many occasions the system have not been poor because of poor encryption, but because of the poor key distribution. So it is absolutely critical to get this right. So like key distribution is between the two users or from one user to many users. Like party A and the party B has a various key distributions. Like A can select a key and physically deliver to B, or a third party can select and deliver to A and B, or if A and B have committed previously, and then they can use the previous keys to encrypt a new key. Like and also if A and B are secure communications with a third party C, and C can relay between A and B. Like what is the key distribution? Key distribution between two keys, that is session key and a permanent key. And session key is something like in which the data is encrypted with one-time session key. Like for one session, there is a one encrypted key. At the conclusion of the session, the key is destroyed. For every new session, there's a new key is generated and it is concluded every session. But what is a permanent key? A permanent key is something that it is between the two entities, which is used for permanently, and it is basically used for distribution of session keys. So automatic key distribution, session key, and mostly it is used for the distribution of one logical connection and destroyed at the end of the session, and used for data. Like what is session key used for? A session key used only for one logical connection. As we all know that it gets collapsed at the end of the session. That is what is meant by the destroyed in the end of the session, and it is used for user data itself. And what is a permanent key? The permanent key used for distribution of all the session keys. And what is done at the key distribution center? At the key distribution center, it determines which system may communicate, and it provides one session key for that connections. And what is meant by a front-end processor? Perform end-to-end encryption and obtains key for the host. So before going to this, and what is a symmetric key? We all know that symmetric key is something that we use as a secret key in symmetric key, and the distribution of symmetric key is what we have seen in the Diffie-Hellman algorithm. And how the key distribution is done in the public key and the private key, that is asymmetric. Asymmetric is something that a pair of public and a private key which is available to all the users to use, and we all know that the private key is not shareable and public key is shareable. So in how many ways we can distribute the public keys among the user? So basically there are 4 ways, and these 4 ways are public announcement, public key authority, public key directory, and public certificate authority. So these are the 4 ways, like public announcement, public available directory, public key authority, public key certificate. So the first, public announcement. Public announcement is something that saying that every user has to announce its keys to all the users which are there in the network. Like if one user user A sends its public key to all the remaining users which are there in the network. It's like mostly the broadcast message. Like if user A wants to send a broadcast message to all the users, means any user can take it publicity. So there is no security in this. So easily it can be misleaded, and when we can easily hack the network. So it's basically simple, and there is a mostly it's done in a broadcast way. And what is a it basically that a broadcast with one of the key, and what are limitations? Limitations are the force key, misuse of it, and the no control on accessing the key. Like anyone can access, right? So there is a no control of accessing this. So what is publicly available, publicly key directory? Public key directory is same like a telephone booth, like see. So all the users in the network will place the public key in one directory. Directory is a place where all the public keys are stored, and all the public keys of which are stored. All the public keys of all the users which are there in the network are stored in this directory. So if user A wants to send public key to the user B, then it can access the directory and take the public key of the respected user. Like if any user needs a public key, they will find out the public key in the directory, and all the users can access the public key directory 24/7. It is available all the time. So all the time. So it's like if you want a communication between the user A and the user B without any permission, the user A can access the directory, and directory is a place where all the keys have been stored. So A can access the directory, and they can easily use the public key of the B. So if any modifications are done in that public key, then it has to be modified in the directory also, so that for the next usage, the correct public key is used. And in this session also, there is a no security, as anyone can access the directory. So hacking is easily done over here, and the password of the directory can be easily be stolen. See, what are the limitations? Like maintained by a third party, and the directory is password protected, and the only registered user can access it. And what is meant by public key authority? Public key authority, here public key authority is a third person, and is a trusted third person. And it's just a third person by all the users. If user A, if the user A wants to communicate with the user B, the user one needs to send a request to third party, that is the authority, and authority will approve the request of the user A, so that he can easily communicate with the user B. So like the message is sent to the authority people, and the authority people will send to all the users whichever they want to access. Right? What are the cases for it? Here the user A wants to communicate with the user B. That the user A sends the request to public key authority, and the request is sent with a timestamping. What is timestamping? A timestamping is something what is the recent message which is sent, we use it for the timestamping. That is, and after giving a request, we will get acknowledgement from the authority people. We will get a reply from the authority people to the public to the user B to send his public key. And the public key is appended with the first message. What is the first message? The first message is something like that, the request as well as the timestamping. So the authority will send to A, that is encrypted with the public key of the authority, public key of the user B, along with the request, along with the timestamping. Then A sends a message to the B, which is IDA /N1. What is IDA? That is a unique identification, and is encrypted with the public key of the authority, and the IDA and the N1. N1 is a noise. Noise means something like a unique transaction. So the noise is basically done because for eliminating the replay attack. So if B wants to communicate with the A, then B should use the public key of A. So like the B requests the authority, then the request is appended with the timestamping, and the authority will reply back to the B of the public key of the A, and is encrypted with the public key, the request and the timestamping, at which time the request has been done. And the B sends a message to A saying that I've got your public key, and is encrypted with the authority's public key, and along with the N2 and N1. N2 and N1 is something like the noise 2 and noise 1. That is both the unique transactions. Here, what is the T1 and the team? What is happening with the initiator? First, the initiator sends a request to public key authority. Next, the public key authority will append that request with timestamping, along with the public key of the user B, which is encrypted with the private key of the author, right? And the public next, the initiator B sends a message to the responder B saying that though there is a unique identification along with a unique transaction, That is, you are sending with the public key B and it encrypted the public key of the B. Next, the B also wants the public key of A because there should be communication between them, right? So B requests the public authority. The public authority will give the public key to the responder B, and the responder B acknowledges the A, saying that I have got your public key, and which is encrypted with both the two N1 and the N2. That is a random number called noise. It's a unique, which is a unique transaction. It is basically used for eliminating the replay attacks. So IDA is something that the network address of the initiator A of the communication. So what is public key certificate? As we all know that in this process, there's a huge time taking place between that is sending the request, receiving the request, acknowledging the request, and there's a huge time taking place. To avoid this, we use a public key certification. So as we all know that in the third, in that public authority, the time taking is continuous and the request for the keys takes a long period of time. So to avoid this, we use a public key certificate authority. Public key certificate is also same as trusted third party application, which allows all the user in the network to communicate with each other. So before the communication, they have to exchange the certificates. What is certificate? A certificate is something that have an identity and the public key of the user. So basically suggested by the conf-filter, initiator sends the name and its public key, and the public key are exchanged by the means of certificates, and the private key of public key certificate used for encryption purpose and vice versa. And the certificate contains the time of the request, network address, that is IDA, and the public key of the user who had made the request. Like see, the user A wants a public key sends a public key to certificate authority, and certificate authority sends a CA. That is, CA is a certificate. And in the same way, the user B sends his public key to the certificate authority, and certificate authority acknowledges with the certificate. Next, the user A and the user B acknowledge each other that I have your certificate and you have my certificate. Right? What is in the first step? So what is first? The digital subject requires certificate from the certificate authority. Next, the certificate authority validates the digital signature and then issue the certificate, right? And the same takes place with the B and the replying party also. And after the certificate has been issued and verified, the digital subject represents certificate to replying party that I have got a certificate. In the last step, the party accepts the digital subject certificate. So what happens in the CA means the initial ID that is encrypted with the public appended with the public user A, and along with the timestamping T1, and is encrypted with the private key of the certificate authority. And the certificate CB contains the encrypted with the key with the public authority and the unique identity, along with the public key of the B and the timestamping 2. So in the overall, we can say that distribution of the key also the main important process. Not only we need encryption, we also need a proper distribution of the keys so that every process goes hand in hand. And we know that there are two types of keys. One type of key is something that says a session key, that is a secret key, which is mainly used, for distribution, and the same key is used for encryption and the decryption, and it is used by one of the algorithm, the Diffie-Hellman algorithm. And versus asymmetric keys, they are both public and the private key, and the public key is known for all, and the private key is something which is not shareable. And for sharing with this public key, there are 4 types, and those 4 types are what? Public key authority, public key certification, and public announcement, and public key authority, certificate authority. So what are the issues in this key distribution? So the issues in key distribution are the key distribution require a large network, but must have trusted each other. I mean, one user must trust on the other user. Like session key lifetime should be limited for the greater security, because if the limit time of session key is more, there is a chance of misleading it. So that's the reason the session key lifetime should be limited for the greater security. And what are the use of automatical key distribution on the behalf of the users, but must have trust system. That is, a key should be automatically change itself. Use of decentralized key distribution and control purpose key are used. And what is the summary from this? From this, we can say that asymmetric key encryption is to protect the confidentiality and is also used for good key distribution, and is used for trust party for KDC, that is key distribution certificates. And this is the encryption process packet switching network. Like one network uses a packet switching network, that is there is a end-to-end encryption device attached with a link with the encryption device. Once it gets entered in the packet switching network, the link encryption takes place in this device. After it comes over the cloud, then and encryption is also done at the end of the stage. That is, the encryption, the message encrypted, and with the help of this network, the message is passed, and also the last it is decrypted. So this is a packet switching network. And thank you, sir. That's all. Thank you, sir.